back to the Main Art Spirit Studio, you fourth graders and anyone else who's following. Today we're going to be painting our mask, a very exciting part of this last step of making your sculpture. A couple of things we're going to be using today that you're going to need is paper towels. Hair dryer actually speeds up the paint. The paint I'm going to be using is acrylic and latex paint. Excuse me. And we're going to be using a 1-inch brush and a number 6 brush, something fairly small, and an even smaller one than that. I'm also going to be using some paint markers, show you how you can keep fine lines with that. Paint markers can be easily bought at like Hobby Lobby or places that are local, the craft store like Joann Fabric, which are open now. So you're able to get in there. It's a lot easier to get some of those things. But anyway, one of the first things we're going to want to do is take a look at how we're going to be looking through our mask, how much eye hole we're going to be needing, so you're going to also need a drill. So let's get started with all these things and let's get a video going that shows you how I would paint this. So here's another version of a mask. This mask here is of a dog, and it's a Plastercraft mask, and you can see that really the masks come alive when you start to paint them. So that's what we're going to do. You're going to need white, red, yellow, and blue, and those are the primary colors, and then we're going to mix some other colors to get the colors that we want. I'm making an eagle mask, and you can see I've already started to draw on my mask eyes and where the actual beak comes back underneath the eye. So you want to get a picture, a photograph of your creature that you're making, or if it's an imaginary, that you have your original drawing that you were working from, and then try to transfer that onto this three-dimensional shape and try to pre-plan with pencil where the shapes and all the paint will go. So come back and I'll show you how to do all of this. So to begin with, one of the things we're going to want to do is to do what is called a base coat. So there's a lot of samples that you can get sometimes, and sometimes they're free at Home Depot when you're painting a wall. And this is a off-white latex that I'm going to use. Latex and acrylic pretty much are fairly compatible. And what I like about this latex is that it is a primer as well. So most of my mask is going to be white. You can use any of these colors that I've given you. They are actually acrylic and acrylic white and yellow and blue. And then I've mixed some colored ochre. I'll show you how to do that. But what I want to do right now is just paint the base coat. So I'm going to paint the whole inside first. You always want to paint inside out. And if you're painting white on white, you really have to pay close attention that you don't miss where it is that the paint is going. The biggest job that I want to do today is to cover all of the holes and all of the crevices and actually seal this mask with white. So I've already drawn, as you can see, I've drawn where the eyes are going to go, where the beak is, and so I'm going to be careful to go around some of those areas. But the first thing is to do the inside. And it can get a little messy with paint, and that's okay. You probably want to wear a smock. I'm wearing an older shirt today. Old shirts work out just fine. First thing I'm going to want to do is take a drill, and this is where you'll need some adult supervision. And I'm going to drill where my eye holes are. So my eye hole is right there. Very slow. Then I'm going to go straight and around like that. And I'm going to put one here. I'm mostly going to need a breather hole, so I thought it would be really great if I came in at an angle on the bottom. So I'll put one here. That ends up being right about here where I can breathe. Just like that. Then you're going to want to take paint and to paint the inside so that these holes are not all frayed. So we're going to go back and paint inside. And I'm going to continue to paint. So what I'm going to paint with is this latex, which is kind of like a rubberized paint and acrylic polymer. Anyway, so it's going to be very compatible. I'm making sure I stay on my lines, but it's okay to go over your lines a little bit too, especially if you're going to be doing, like I am, a little bit of shading. So if your mask doesn't have the dimension that you need, the eye doesn't sink in like I want it to, then you can do that with shading in paint. I'll show you how I'm going to do that with white in a minute. But the first thing is to do a base coat. So the base coat is going to be mostly white in here, and I'm being careful to go around my lines because I'm going to actually shade with the brush a little bit. Have enough paint, make sure the paint is loaded so it has enough paint that you can actually make some sharp edges with it. Because if you can't make a sharp edge sometimes, and it's always kind of like a sloppy edge, sometimes it just doesn't look as clean. Now this is a little off-white, so it's not incredibly bright. I kind of like that about this. Now the base coat does as much for sealing the project as it does for coloring it. So this base coat right here being white is actually going to seal the plaster, so it's going to last for a long, long time. You want to go inside those holes. Some red here, some blue, a little more red. Tried to get it in the middle to make a gray. It's a bluish gray. And I've added kind of a little more on the top while this is still wet. I've actually painted the whole outside of where I want all my white to be. And I'm just going to go like that. And I'm trying to go from dark to light, so as I add more paint, it gets a little lighter down here and darker up in here. I'm going to add a little more pink. And it's okay that it looks blue, because sometimes in the bright sunlight, you know, there is a kind of blue kind of shadowing that goes on. And we'll do a little more. Blue is also an opposite of like a bluish violet. It would be an opposite of yellow. So I'm going to get those eyes to be yellow. I'm going to wash my brush right now. When you wash your brush, you got to make sure it's very, very dry, or the water in the brush can mix with the paint and make it run. So this is all clean now. I'm going to go to a smaller brush, and I'm going to add some black. I have some black here. And I'm going to add some black, particularly up here. And it's a black line. And I want it really black on the top. And black is made of blue, believe it or not. There's blue in this black. And then I'm going to mix and blend the edges a little bit like this. Just like that. So it has this darkening right underneath. Going careful around the eyes. I'm going to go all the way around the eyes, and I'm going to lighten that as I do, adding white so it's the light kind of version that I want, and really trying to make it a little painterly, but really dark up in here. right, so now we're pretty much done with this large brush, and we're going to use these smaller ones here. This is actually two versions. This one here is a plein air painting brush by Richardson, and this is Gray Matters by Jack Richardson too. Wonderful donation that we got a few years back. And this was actually gray so that it doesn't interfere with the painting process and actually in painting on location. This helps you to concentrate better, so it's a highly recommended plein air brush. I'm going to use it today. Both of these are plein air brushes, and this one was made before this one. And you can see that this one, just being a neutral gray, helps you to focus more on your colors. So it's quite a science in brushes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back in, and before we go too far with the painting, I'm going to put some holes where I'm going to be able to wear the mask. So I'm putting in a smaller drill bit, and right about where your eyes are at the top of your eyebrows, or approximately where you're going to want your holes. So I'm going to put mine right about there, and it's got the hammer thing on there. That's why all the racket. And I'm going to put a hole right about in the same place right here. So the holes are pretty important. Now, if you don't have the ability to do holes, students, you can actually do this later. I can do the holes for you, and we can touch this up later. So then I'm going to go back in and paint the holes, make sure that the holes are painted on the inside, and blow away that plaster, and we'll put some of that. So this is one of my small plein air brushes. Finish your mask by this product here, which is real leather, and it's craft leather that you can get at a hobby stop, a store like Joann Fabric or Hobby Lobby. And just put 3 knots there on each end, tie the back, and put it on your face, and try it out. Okay, here I go. Make sure you friend and like, and also subscribe, and I will see you later. Till next time, take care.